Welcome along to our next video tutorial where we are learning how to create Minecraft worlds using Python code. In this video today we are going to learn how to add a single tree into our world. And I know that doesn't sound like much. It isn't really, it's just a trunk with some green leaves on top. But what we're going to be doing with this tree in future videos is creating things like a forest and an avenue with trees running down either side of it. So this is just the start of bigger and better things. So what I want you to do to get started on creating this single tree today is pop on over to your Python editor. If you're in my class, we're using Mu, and I want you to add in the first couple of lines of code that we always add in when we are coding with Minecraft. The first line of code, remember, will import all the functions from the Minecraft library, which will allow us to actually build worlds with code. And the second line of code here just gets the two programs talking to one another. So it gets Mu talking to Minecraft, so it can send the code across to it to build what we want. After that, I want you to add in the section of code here that clears your world off. So you've got an empty canvas every time your code is run. We've done this in the last few videos now, so you should be pretty used to clearing your world off by adding a whole heap of air into it and then a layer of grass along the bottom. Alright, once you've got those 4 lines of code in, you are ready to get started on this tree. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is what we did in the last video tutorial, is move our player to a particular position when we start our code. So it's basically going to get our player spawning in a set position. So what we need to do to that is put a comment in first of all. It says move the player to a set position. And the code to do that is mc.player.setPos. So what we're running here is the set position function on our player. So the set position function works by opening up a set of brackets and just writing in the 3 different coordinates where you would like your player to spawn. So on the x-axis, I want him to spawn at 0. For the y-axis, I want him at 1. And for the z-axis, I want him at 0 as well. Okay, so when we run our program, I might do that now. We'll just quickly save it first of all. What are we up to now? I think it's up to tutorial 8, so I'm going to call this one number 8 tree. Give that a save, and if I give it a run, we should get an empty world, and our player spawns at those coordinates that I just listed, 0, 1, and 0. Okay, if I look around, I've just got that empty Minecraft world to work with. Alrighty, so now that we've got our player in our set position, the next thing we are going to do is get our tree into a set position. So where do we want this tree to start? So I'm just going to write tree coordinates for my comment, and I'm going to set the X, the Y, and the Z values for this tree. So I want it somewhere close to where my player is spawning, so I might make it, we'll go 5 for the x-axis, 0 for the y, so it gets built from ground level up, and I'm going to put 0 for the z-axis as well. So nice and close to where our player spawns here, very close to the center of the page. Now that we've got our tree ready to go, what we might do next is put in the materials we need for the tree. Okay, so we need to get our block list up here. Now for the trunk, we want to use some wood. So let's see what we've got. Oh, there we go. Number 17 is wood. So if we look there, the block ID for wood is 17. So I'm going to write, we'll just write trunk equals, and we'll put 17. So we've made a variable there called trunk, and that value is set to 17. Remember, variables are like buckets that hold information. So we've made a bucket here with the name trunk. So imagine a bucket with the word trunk written on front of it. And inside of that bucket, or variable as it's known, we've got a piece of paper and we've written the number 17 on it. We're going to use that number 17 a little bit later to make the trunk of the tree. The other thing we want to do is make some leaves. Now I think the leaves just come a little bit further down. There they are. Number 18 for our block ID on leaves. So nice and easy with them next to each other. So we'll make a variable called leaves and set that value to 18. And we're now ready to start drawing our tree. So I'll minimize that block ID list. So let's start by building the trunk. So I'll put a comment in that says trunk, and we're just going to do the usual little trick of mc.setBlocks, and inside brackets we need to put in the starting position or the starting coordinates for our trunk. We've got them already up here under X, Y, and Z. So let's just put in X, Y, and Z for the first 3 coordinates. Now what we're going to do is build this trunk up into the air. So the only coordinate we need to change the second time round is the Y value. We want to add something to it so it goes up in the sky. So let's make it 5 blocks in height. So it starts at Y, which is 0, which is ground level, and it finishes at Y plus 5, so ground level, which is 0 plus 5, so it's going to go up 5 blocks in the air. The X and the Z coordinates are going to stay exactly the same. And finally, we put a comma and we just tell Minecraft what material we're using to build this trunk. So remember, it's number 17. We could write 17 in there if we wanted to, but to give it more meaning, we're going to write the word trunk. So the value that's inside the trunk bucket will be emptied out in there, which is 17, and it will know to build a trunk out of wood. A little bit confusing, I know, but that's all we need to build our trunk. So let's give that a run and see what we get. Here we go. If we just swing around, there's our tree trunk. Perfect. So now all we need to do is add some leaves on top of this tree trunk. So we're going to go down a couple of lines in our code and we'll put a comment in that says leaves. So similar sort of setup. mc.setBlocks is the first thing we're going to write in. This is where it gets a little bit more technical because we are going to sort of drift off from these initial coordinates that we set for the tree. So just copy what I write and you should get something looking pretty good. We're going to start with X minus 2 for the first X position. This is like the base layer of the leaves. Then we're going to do Y plus 6. Remember, we're up in the air, so the Y value is going to be sitting up on top of the trunk that's already there. And for the Z value, it's going to be Z minus 2. All right, they're the starting coordinates for our leaves. The next thing we need to do is put in the 3 finishing coordinates. So how wide and long is this tree going to be? So we're going to do X plus 2. So it starts at X minus 2 for its coordinates and then finishes at X plus 2. So we're going to be 4 blocks across on the X axis. Y is going to stay exactly as it is. So it's just going to stay at Y plus 6. It's just going to be 1 layer of leaves there. And Z is going to be Z plus 2. So same as the X-axis, we started at Z minus 2, we finish at Z plus 2. That means we've got basically a 4 by 4 square that's going to be sitting on top of this trunk. Now remember, we need to also put a comma in at the end here and just mention what material we're using to create the leaves. We're obviously using the leaves material. Close your brackets and give it a run. Hopefully we see some leaves appear. There we go. We've got the first layer of leaves on our tree. If I just go for a quick fly, you'll see there's nothing on top. It's just a very flat tree at the moment. What we will do is add a smaller little square on top, and that will make it look a little bit more like a tree, I suppose, as much as you can make it look like a tree in Minecraft. So jumping out of there, I'm going to go back to my code. Now it's going to be very similar to this line we just added in. I might put a comment at the end of that line we put in just then and call it base layer, and then on my next line this will be the top layer of the leaves. So we'll write mc.setBlocks. Make sure you get your spelling right, and again just copy me here. It's pretty similar to what we just did, but we're going to start with X minus 1. We're going to go up 1 more in the sky, so we're going to do Y plus 7, and we're going to do Z minus 1. So we're just making a little square of leaves, which is a little bit smaller, about half the size of the one that's already up there. Now we're going to do, for the finishing coordinates, X plus 1, Y plus 7 is going to stay the same, and Z plus 1. Don't forget, the final thing we need to write in is leaves, just to say we're building this top layer out of leaves as well. I also put a comment at the end that just says top layer, so we know this is the top layer of leaves. The line above it is the base layer of the leaves. That's about it, so let's give it a run and we'll see what we get. Okay, so it's a little bit close. I'm going to have to zoom back, but if we come back here, you can see that another layer has been added to that tree. If I go for a fly, this laggy computer is making it difficult to fly, but there we go. You can see we've got 2 layers of leaves. The base layer there is 4 blocks across by 4 blocks that way, and then the top one there is 2 by 2, I think, or 3 by 3, something like that. But that's a single tree. That's all I'm going to show you in this video tutorial. In the next one, I'm going to show you how we can get a little bit more fancy with those trees, and we'll have a look at making a forest. So I'll catch you in the next one.